So, Death Stranding just randomly appeared on Xbox today. A shadow drop for Death Stranding. Not the type of game you usually see shadow drops for. I think about, when Stray launched in 2022 and was exclusive to PlayStation for a bit, and then it got marketing and all of that before it led up to its release on Xbox. That's kind of the typical strategy. A game is exclusive for a little bit, and then when that timed exclusivity window runs up, the marketing begins for the next console that it's going to launch on, and then it, eventually, inevitably launches on the console. You don't usually see shadow drops like this, so this was a really weird situation that I kind of want to unpack with you all. I want to dive into it a little bit with you all. So, the rumor right now is that Kojima bought back the IP. He bought back Death Stranding from Sony. And which, I think makes sense on a number of different fronts. I think that if you are Sony, your top priority with Kojima is probably to keep him happy over looking at Death Stranding as like a long-term investment. That it's like Kojima is the long-term investment, not Death Stranding. You know what I mean? Death Stranding sold decently well. I think it sold like 8 million copies or somewhere around that number. And so a big budget, $100+ million game selling 8 million copies, it at least made its money back, I would assume. So it's not like they took a big hit on it, but it's also not like you're looking at Death Stranding if you're Sony and going, oh yeah, we got a lot of long-term potential with this thing to just make this into a bankable hit franchise. I think really the long-term potential with Death Stranding is in film and television. I think that's really where you're going to get the most bang for your buck with Death Stranding, with that IP. And Kojima definitely wants to seemingly transition into that space in the later years of his career. The film and television space, I think, is where he'll end up down the road. But from Sony's standpoint, to make sure that your relationship with Kojima remains strong, like if he did come to you and wanted to buy back the rights to Death Stranding, if he wanted to buy back that IP, I would imagine Sony probably let that thing go for next to nothing just to make sure that that dude remained happy, because, like I said, that should be top priority. The other thing is Fizzant. The game that was announced at a State of Play a while back, where it's going to be Kojima diving back into the stealth espionage, Metal Gear Solid style experience, and that was going to be exclusive to PlayStation. So, what I'm wondering is, were there any negotiations where it's like, hey, we'll keep Fizzant exclusive to PlayStation. We will give you back the rights to Death Stranding. I don't think these type of trade negotiations really go on with IP too often. Well, I guess, it's happened before. Situations like this have happened before, but I also don't think, I think the most likely scenario is 5 years ago to the day Death Stranding 1 released initially. I would imagine that there was just something in the contract stating that, hey, these are the expectations. If you meet this sales figure, or whatever the case may be, you will get the rights to Death Stranding back. Or if you don't meet this sales figure, you'll get the right to Death Stranding back. I would imagine it's something more along the lines of something that's been concrete, submitted in the contract years and years and years ago. For it to be 5 years to the date when the first Death Stranding released, and when Death Stranding now releases on Xbox, I would assume it has to do something with a long-term contract that was already, concrete, solidified years and years ago. Actually, quick correction, I got that wrong. I thought today was November 8th. It's the 7th. Death Stranding 1 initially launched November 8th, 2019. So it launched 364 days ago, not 365 days ago. But yeah, I would assume it would have something to do with the contract there. And I don't know. It just, if it was something more because you're looking at PlayStation's working relationships with second party partners, and currently they seem less focused on owning the IP that their second party partners are working on, like Rise of the Ronin and Stellar Blade and stuff like that. Those games are PlayStation or Sony doesn't own those IP. And so that would kind of lend some credibility to the idea that this was a recent negotiation, because at the time when Death Stranding came out, Sony was still focused on locking down their second party partners and owning the IP that the second party partners were working on in 2019. So that would lend some credibility to the idea that this was a more recent negotiation that took place. And once again, I think that if that is the case, it's just I would have to assume that Physint comes into play in some regard, where it's like, yeah, we look at that as the more bankable thing. We look at Physint and the future relationship with Kojima as just the more bankable, the more bankable future, the more bankable thing to rely on going forward, opposed to a Death Stranding 3 and a Death Stranding 4. Now, that's where the conversation gets interesting. Death Stranding 2, because if Kojima now owns the rights to Death Stranding entirely, does Death Stranding 2 come out day and date on Xbox? Because if that's the case, now we have a weird situation for PlayStation. If you're looking at their lineup for the past few years, 2023, weak lineup of exclusives. 2024, good lineup of exclusives, not the best lineup of first-party exclusives. And then 2025, let's actually look up, what is PlayStation's lineup for 2025 looking like? Okay, yeah, so you got the Midnight Walk, you got Death Stranding 2, Ballad of Antara, Ghost of Yotai, and then you have to be confirmed dates on Marvel's Wolverine, Marathon, Sword of the Sea, Phantom Blade Zero, Fair Games, and Where Winds Meet. So yeah, an okay year for 2025. I think you look at Ghost of Yotai with a bunch of question marks around it going, yeah, does that actually come out in 2025? Probably not. Marvel's Wolverine definitely won't come out in 2025, but I think you could maybe substitute that with like Venom. I could see Venom just getting a quick, maybe 6-month marketing window and releasing in 2025. I think that Midnight Walk game is going to be pretty successful, at least on a critical level. I don't know about a commercial level. I doubt it'll be successful on a commercial level, but critically, I think that game will do well. The Psychonauts kind of horror-looking game. And yeah, so if Death Stranding 2 drops out of 2025 as, well, if Death Stranding 2 releases day and date on Xbox as well as PlayStation, if PlayStation doesn't have that as an exclusive, is it the end of the world? Probably not, but if Ghost of Yotai launches in 2025, then yeah, it's not that big of a deal. But if there's no Ghost of Yotai, then Death Stranding 2 would be your big exclusive of the year. And so yeah, I mean, that would be a black eye without a doubt. But is Death Stranding 2 the type of game that's really going to sell systems? No. So yeah, I if I had to predict right now, does Death Stranding 2 come out day and date on Xbox? I would say no. I would assume those contracts have long been inked in stone and signed years and years ago, that Death Stranding 2 will have this amount of time. I think the same thing that we're talking about with the first Death Stranding, where, 5 years to the date, we see Death Stranding 1 release on Xbox. I would assume there'd be a similar contract for Death Stranding 2, where maybe not 5 years, maybe it's a little bit less extensive. Maybe that window is shortened quite a bit, as we see a lot of these windows, like from PlayStation's console launch to their PC launch, a lot of these windows are shortening up. So maybe that is the case where Death Stranding 2 comes out to Xbox in 2 years or 3 years opposed to 5. I don't think it'll be a day and date launch though. If it is, that's going to be very, very interesting. Very interesting, because once again, I think you're looking at consecutively some pretty weak years for PlayStation. I mean, for PlayStation in terms of their exclusive output of super AAA heavy hitters, and so yeah, I going to be interesting to follow along with that next year. But if I had to put money on it right now, I would say it's still a PlayStation exclusive, and then it'll come to Xbox. Death Stranding 2 will come to Xbox in a couple years. Oh, actually, and real quick, I just saw the story pop up as well that I'll go ahead and include in here regarding WB Games, where David Zaslav, the CEO of WB, he said, I want to pull up this specific paragraph here. He added, we have 4 strong and profitable game franchises with loyal global fans: Hogwarts Legacy, Mortal Kombat, Game of Thrones, and DC, in particular Batman. We are focusing our development efforts on these core franchises with proven studios to improve our success ratio. So, dude, this is really good news. We talked about WB the other day in regards to Hogwarts Legacy and Hogwarts Legacy 2 coming out, but Batman being mentioned there in specific. And I would imagine this is not in regards to Arkham Shadows, since it just released. And then Hogwarts Legacy 2 was confirmed the other day. Game of Thrones, a new Game of Thrones being in the works with some proven prestigious studio behind it. I think that's good news. But Batman, okay. The rumors were that Rocksteady was back working on a single player Batman game. So proven studios, Batman, Rocksteady, single player, come on, let it be true. Maybe there's a little bit of cope going on right now, but I don't know. I'm really happy to see that. Not a lot to really add in here, but excited to see that there is a new Batman game. I would assume by that quote that there is a new Batman game in the works, and let's just hope it's Rocksteady. Let's hope it's single player, and let's take the good news where we can get it. So yeah, hell, I guess while we're at it, let's talk about Grand Theft Auto 6 real quick as well. Take-Two confirmed that it is still on track for a fall 2025 release date. Do I believe that? No, I'll believe it when I see it. I still think 2026. I think like summer 2026 for Grand Theft Auto 6. Borderlands 4, fiscal 2026, between April 2025 and March 2026. Mafia: The Old Country, fiscal 2026, between April 2025 and March 2026. Judas to be announced, so no official concrete release date for that one yet, or even a window, which is maybe a little bit worrying. Or that might mean that they're going to announce it at the Game Awards very soon. So, Mafia: The Old Country, launching fiscal 2026, so between April and April 2025, March 2026. I think that probably will be a 2026 launch title. I don't think that's going to. I don't think that's going to make 2025, and I think it's probably the best move to get out of 2025 in general for Mafia. If Grand Theft Auto 6 does actually end up launching in 2025, go ahead and just get out of its orbit. Any game similar to, I mean, we went fucking 10 years with next to no Grand Theft Auto clones, and then GTA 6 launches and you're going to launch your game right next to it. Just get out of its orbit. Don't release anywhere near that thing. And Take-Two actually mentioned that with Borderlands. They're like, we're not launching GTA 6 anywhere near Borderlands. Like, no company worth its salt is going to launch games. They're big games right next to one another. But yeah, so hopefully Mafia gets its time to shine, gets its time in the sun, maybe gets to benefit off of the GTA hype, where people are looking for a similar style of game a year after playing Grand Theft Auto 6, and they're like, oh shit, Mafia, cool, a new Mafia? We'll jump into that. But then you do run the issue where it's like, okay, what if Grand Theft Auto 6 slips to May 2026, and what if Mafia: The Old Country slips to September? You know, that's pretty close. Those dates end up getting pretty fucking close there. And could GTA 6 launching close to it in any way, shape, or form cannibalize the sales of Mafia: The Old Country? So, yeah, just some interesting data there. And also, Take-Two Interactive has sold Private Division for an undisclosed sum. Buyer to be disclosed relatively soon. The buyer purchased rights to all of its live and unreleased titles. Take-Two will continue to support No Rest for the Wicked. So who bought up Private Division? That becomes the big question. So Private Division, they released Rollerdrome, one of my favorite games of 2022. Ollie World. They have some. They're kind of like, they were a double A indie wing of Take-Two, and then put out a lot of interesting titles in that realm. So who bought them up? Who y'all predicting? Who bought up old Private Division? I feel like you immediately go to Embracer and Xbox or Microsoft. I feel like those are the top two candidates, but I think probably Microsoft right now is avoiding acquisition for a little while. I do think Private Division makes a ton of sense if you want to continue supporting Game Pass for the long term. That's a publisher that it would make sense to acquire to get games of that ilk in your subscription service. Private Division makes a lot of sense there. You know, you look at what was the was it Nacon, or who bought Hi-Fi Rush? I always forget the company that bought Hi-Fi Rush from Xbox. It was Krafton. That's right. Krafton bought Hi-Fi Rush from Microsoft in August of 2024. And yeah, so Krafton is they're the PUBG guys. They're the guys that published PUBG. So it seems like they're trying to expand a little bit beyond the old PUBG space. And they got a few other games in here, but nothing like super notable. Some mobile titles. So it seems like they're trying to expand a little bit into the console market. Looks like they're going to publish, or that they did publish Subnautica, and yeah, they have a few games in their lineup here, but maybe it's maybe Krafton kind of expanding a little bit and trying to get involved with Private Division. So it's going to be interesting to see who ends up acquiring Private Division. Good news though, because the rumors for a while were that Private Division was totally shuttered by Take-Two, and this is definitely the better alternative, selling off the studio opposed to just completely shuttering them. So yeah, good news there. And yeah, that's it for the video, for a nice little news recap of the last couple days. Hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, I shall see you good people very soon.